Have you ever found yourself wondering, if they care, why do they always pull away? You share a beautiful moment, they retreat. You open up, they go quiet. You offer closeness and somehow it feels like you've done something wrong. Hi, I'm Jim Rohn, and if you've ever loved someone who keeps their guard up, who says they want connection but disappears the moment things feel real, you're not imagining things, you're not too much. You're navigating a relationship with someone who may have an avoidant attachment style. Here's the thing most people don't talk about. Avoidants do feel deeply. They just don't always feel safe enough to stay. And that doesn't mean they're emotionally broken or incapable of love. It means they've learned to protect themselves by staying distant, even from what they want most. But here's the good news. When they start to feel safe, everything changes. Slowly, subtly, but meaningfully. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 5 clear signs that an avoidant person is finally starting to feel emotionally safe. These are the moments that most people miss. The ones that don't look dramatic, but say everything about where the relationship could go if safety becomes stronger than fear. So if you've ever questioned whether your connection is real, or wondered if it's worth holding on, I hope this video gives you the clarity you've been craving. Not by teaching you how to chase, but by helping you recognize the quiet signs of genuine growth. And if this kind of content speaks to where you are right now, real conversations, grounded guidance, emotionally mature relationships, go ahead and subscribe and tap the notification bell. This is the space for your clarity, not confusion. Let's get into it. Sign 1. They don't back down after intimate moments. If you've ever been involved with someone who tends to withdraw after things get close, maybe after a vulnerable conversation or a moment that felt almost like emotional intimacy, you probably know the feeling, a sudden shift, a cold silence, a space that feels more like distance than rest. It's disorienting. One minute you feel connected, the next you're wondering if you said too much. And here's where a lot of people get stuck. They start chasing, overthinking, reaching out to fix a rupture that wasn't theirs to repair. But what if I told you that when an avoidant starts to feel safe, the pattern subtly but unmistakably starts to change? See, most avoidant individuals don't disappear because they don't care. They disappear because closeness activates an old, unhealed story. If I let someone get too close, I'll lose control. But when they begin to feel emotionally safe, not manipulated, not pressured, but safe, something different happens. After a deep conversation, they don't bolt. After being seen in a raw moment, they don't go quiet. Instead, they stay, maybe awkwardly, maybe without the perfect words, but they remain engaged. They resist the old reflex to retreat into solitude to recalibrate. And that shift, subtle as it is huge. If you've noticed a moment like this, don't overlook it. It's not just emotional progress, it's a glimpse of trust taking root. But be careful. This isn't an invitation to lean in harder or start rewarding that moment with more intensity. It's a signal to slow down, stay grounded, and let safety build gradually, without turning it into pressure. Let the space breathe. Have you ever seen someone avoidant do this? Just once, even briefly? Did you sense they were trying even if they couldn't name it? I want to hear about it. Drop a comment and share your aha moment. You never know who else will read it and feel less alone. And if this resonates, hit that subscribe button and stick around. The more we understand what emotional safety really looks like, the better we get at building love that lasts. Sign 2. They start taking the initiative without being prompted. You know that moment when someone who used to feel emotionally unavailable suddenly surprises you? Not with grand gestures, but with something simple, something consistent. Maybe they text you first. Maybe they follow up on something small you said last week, something you didn't expect them to remember. Or maybe, for the first time, they ask you to hang out, without you having to hint, wait, or wonder. If you've ever been involved with someone who tends to shut down or avoid intimacy, These moments can feel almost unreal. You're so used to carrying the weight of the connection that when they finally move toward you without being pushed, it creates this tiny but powerful shift. What you're witnessing in that moment isn't just affection. It's a sign of internal safety forming. Avoidantly attached people often struggle with emotional initiative, not because they don't care, but because their nervous system associates closeness with pressure. So, when they start to act on their own, reaching out without prompting, it's not random, it's intentional. It's their way of testing the water. Can I show up without losing myself? And if you're paying attention, you'll realize it's not about dramatic words or love bombing. It's quiet, it's steady. They start showing up in ways that say, I remembered, I care, I'm trying. And that's far more meaningful than any overnight transformation. But here's where most people trip up. They mistake this progress as a green light to accelerate. They flood the space, lean in harder, or unintentionally pressure the avoidant to keep up the momentum. That can send them right back into retreat mode. Instead, the key here is balance. When they take a step toward you, don't smother it. Acknowledge it, appreciate it, but give it space to grow into something real, something earned. Now I want to hear from you. Have you noticed someone avoidant start to reach out on their own? How did that feel? Were you tempted to lean in harder, or did you manage to stay grounded and let it unfold? Drop a comment below and let me know. These are the stories that matter, because they're not just about love. They're about learning to build something secure. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. This is the kind of emotional growth we don't skip over here. Sign 3, they can talk about feelings without being defensive. Something changes, quietly but unmistakably, when an avoidant person starts to feel emotionally safe. You'll notice it not in the big declarations, but in the moments where they don't run from conversations that once triggered their deepest fears. The topic turns toward emotions, yours, theirs, or the relationship. And instead of shutting down, brushing it off, or changing the subject, they stay in it. They might not have the perfect words. In fact, they'll probably admit they're still figuring it out. But they won't flee. And that right there is a breakthrough. People with avoidant tendencies aren't cold or heartless. They're protective. Somewhere along the way, they learned that emotions were messy, unsafe, or dangerous. Vulnerability wasn't modeled. It was punished or ignored. So when they begin to lean in, even slightly, and say something like, I don't really know how to talk about this, but I want to try, you are witnessing the walls soften. It may not sound like much, but for someone who spent years retreating behind emotional armor, that kind of openness is nothing short of courageous. And here's the kicker. It often won't come in a way that looks like what you imagine. It may sound awkward, disjointed. It may show up as a question instead of a confession or a clumsy attempt to relate to your feelings. But the real win is this. They're not avoiding the discomfort anymore. They're choosing to be present in it. With you, this is where your response matters, because what happens next will shape whether that opening grows or shuts down again. Can you meet them there without overanalyzing? Can you listen, not lecture? Because the more emotionally safe you are to be around, the more they'll start showing up again and again. Have you ever had a moment like this, where someone who usually pulls back stayed in the emotional conversation, even if just a little? What did they say, and how did you respond? I want to hear it. Your story might be the encouragement someone else needs right now. So share it in the comments. And if you're learning something here, if this is making you reflect differently, go ahead and subscribe. There's so much more where this came from. Sign 4. They acknowledge their fear without letting it control them. One of the most powerful and often overlooked shifts in an avoidant partner is this. They start naming their fears out loud before those fears make all the decisions. Let that sink in, because for someone who's spent most of their life managing closeness by avoiding it, this moment is a huge deal. You're no longer watching someone silently retreat behind a wall of distance, pretending they're fine or masking discomfort with indifference. Instead, they begin to talk about it. And not in a dramatic way, but in a way that's raw, honest, and often surprising. You might hear something like, "Getting close to people makes me feel uneasy," or "I've never really seen what a healthy relationship looks like, so I'm learning as I go." That's not weakness, that's growth. That's emotional intelligence finally waking up under the surface. And here's where things get interesting. This kind of honesty often comes with hesitation, even fear of how you'll respond. Why? Because vulnerability has always been tied to risk for them. They've learned to protect themselves first, connect later, if at all. So when they open up about their fears, they're not just sharing, they're testing the emotional safety of the space between you. Will you criticize them for not being further along? Or will you recognize what it took for them to say something so real? This is the point where many relationships quietly pivot. Because once someone starts admitting what scares them and chooses to stay in the connection anyway, it's no longer avoidance running the show, it's conscious choice. And that creates a doorway to something much more real than just chemistry or compatibility. Shared emotional effort. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever seen someone you care about drop the mask and admit, even just once, what's really going on under their silence? What did they say, and how did it shift things for you? Drop a comment. Let's turn this space into something real, because conversations like these are where change begins. And if this is speaking to something deep inside you, go ahead and subscribe. The kind of growth we talk about here, it doesn't come from pretending, it comes from truth. Sign 5, they start letting you see the real them, the vulnerable side too. There's a quiet shift that happens when someone with avoidant tendencies begins to feel truly safe with you. Not just emotionally safe, but safe enough to be fully seen. And here's how you'll know. They stop curating their image. They stop leading only with strength, certainty, or the parts of themselves that feel polished and in control. Instead, they start to let you in on the messier parts, the parts that are unsure, imperfect, maybe even a little scared. This is not weakness. This is the truest form of emotional courage. Because for someone who's spent their life managing connection by staying self-contained, letting you see their softer, unfiltered side means they're risking something deeply personal. Their defense system. You'll notice it not in some dramatic confession, but in the subtleties. Maybe they share a regret from their past, or open up about a time they felt lost. Maybe they admit that they don't have it all figured out, and more importantly, they don't try to mask it. They might stumble over their words, or say things like, "I don't usually talk about this," or "This feels weird to say," but what they're doing in those moments is testing the waters of real intimacy and seeing whether they can be fully themselves and still be received with warmth, not judgment. If you're there when that happens, don't overlook it. Don't rush to fix it or downplay it or make it about you. Just witness it. Because what they're saying without saying it is this: I trust you enough to show you the parts of me that I usually hide. And the moment they believe you won't leave when they're vulnerable, that you can hold both their strength and their softness, is the moment they start relating to you from authenticity, not fear. Have you ever had someone open up like this when you least expected it? Did it change the way you saw them, or maybe did it shift something in you? Tell me about it in the comments. These are the moments where real connection is built, and your story might help someone else finally recognize one of their own. And if this kind of grounded emotional insight is what you're here for, go ahead and hit subscribe. We're not chasing illusions here. We're building something real, one honest conversation at a time. If you've made it to this point, thank you from the heart for staying with me through this conversation. What we explored today wasn't just about avoidant behavior or attachment theory. It was about what it actually looks like when emotional safety begins to shift the dynamic. We walked through the subtle, often overlooked signs when they stop running after intimacy. When they start reaching out first, when they sit with emotion instead of shutting it down, when they speak their fears instead of being ruled by them, and when they finally let you see the real, unguarded version of who they are. These shifts might not come with big declarations or sudden changes. In fact, most of them are quiet. But if you're paying attention, they say everything. And here's the deeper truth. You didn't create their healing, but your clarity, steadiness, and self-respect helped make safety possible. That matters. Because healthy love doesn't come from chasing. It comes from showing up honestly and giving people space to meet you there or reveal that they can. If something in this video resonated with your experience, I'd love to hear about it. What signs have you noticed in someone avoidant? Or in yourself? Drop a comment below and share. It not only helps you process, but it gives others the chance to feel less alone in their journey. And if you found this helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. This channel is here to help you navigate emotional connection from a place of strength, not scarcity. From grounded self-worth, not fear. You're not crazy for wanting more. You're not wrong for needing clarity. And the more you honor those truths, the closer you get to the kind of love that doesn't require you to shrink in order to stay. Keep choosing yourself, honestly, gently, and without apology. I'll see you in the next video.